Hello there, welcome to this video. We are going to talk about the unit circle in this lesson. It's going to be split up into three different videos. I'm going to first talk about what is the unit circle, how do we find the angles of the unit circle in degrees and radians. In video 2, we'll talk about the coordinates. How do I find specific coordinate locations on the unit circle? In the third video, we'll talk about how we actually apply our knowledge of the unit circle to pre-calculus and calculus. Okay, so first of all, let's go ahead and introduce ourselves to the unit circle. So what is the unit circle and where does it even get its name from? Well, the unit circle gets its name from its radius, which is 1 unit. So the radius of the unit circle is 1. And that's a very, very important idea. Make sure you remember that and know that because that does come into play when we're talking about angle locations on the unit circle. Okay, and the trigonometry often uses the angles of the unit circle, and the unit circle is a kind of made up of what we call quadrantal angles, and these are just angles that end at quadrants. We'll see them here in a second, and then other angles that are multiples of 30 degrees, or what we call pi 6 radians, as well as multiples of 45 degrees or pi 4th radians. And that's kind of like our technique when we make our unit circle. We'll start out with quadrantal angles first, then I'll go ahead, I switch it up. I do pi 4th radians. I feel like it intuitively goes better that way, and then we have pi 6 radians. Okay, so that's kind of like the order that I construct the unit circle in, and you can just kind of see what you like. Okay, so let's go ahead and see the unit circle. Here it is. Well, it's blank. We have to go ahead and fill it in. So like I said, I'm going to go ahead and start off with the quadrantals. And again, quadrantals are angles where the angle ends on a major axis. Okay, so I'll start off with degrees. I'm going to put that up here too. These will be all in degrees. So I'm going to start off here. This will be 0 degrees, right? My angle ends here. Okay, and then if I go around here, this is 90 degrees. Okay, and then I can continue around here. This is 180 degrees. And then if I continue another 90, that is 270 degrees. Okay, and then all the way around, this will take me back to 0, which is what we call coterminal with 360 degrees. Okay, so those are all of our quadrantals. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the 45 degree angles, right? Because half of 90 is 45. So this angle here is 45 degrees. Okay, so if I add 45, so imagine we're here, right? If I add 45 here, that gives me 90. Okay, and then I can add another 45 here. That gives me 135. Okay, and I can add another 45, and that gives me 180. Add another 45, we get 225 degrees. Add another 45, and we get 270. Add another 45, and we get 315 degrees. Add another 45, you get 360. Whew. All we're going to do, really, in this video is just add a whole bunch, okay? Just so you know, forewarning. So there is the 45 degree angles. Okay, next let's go ahead and talk about our 30 degree angles. So 1/3, right, of 90 here is 30 degrees. Okay, and note that's 1/6 of 180. You agree? That'll come back into play later. Okay, so that's 30. Now if I add another 30, I get here, which is 60 degrees. If I add another 30 here, I get 90. If I add another 30, we get 120. Add another 30, we get 150. Add another 30, that's 180. Another 30 to that is 210 degrees. Add another 30, and we get 240 degrees. Another 30 gives you 270. And then here, this, after another 30 would give you 300. Add another 30. And we get 330. 333, not 333, 330. 330. Okay. What you should notice is that I kind of took these angles here at the top, right, and at the bottom, and I made them a different color. And the reason that I made them a different color is because the unit circle is made up of three main angles. You have a 30, a 45, and a 60. So the 60-degree angles, yes, they are multiples of 30, but those are an important angle that we use also. And when we switch to radians, you'll kind of see the difference. But what I want you to see is in green, these are all multiples of 60. 60 plus 60 is 120. Plus 60 is 180. Plus 60 is 240. Plus 60 is 300. Plus 60 gives you the 360. Okay, so that's your unit circle in degrees. Pretty easy and straightforward, right? Okay, here's the bad news, is we don't really use degrees in pre-calculus and calculus. We end up using radians a lot. And in the last lesson, you guys were introduced to radians, right? And you know that that conversion, right, is 180 degrees is pi, okay? And so what we're gonna do is, again, we'll start out with quadrantals. Okay, so quadrantals first. So 180 degrees, right? So this would be angle 0. Okay, and if I go 180 degrees, that is pi. Okay, so if I go another 180 degrees, okay, that would be 2 pi. And that should be very, very familiar from the last lesson, right? You know that 360 degrees is 2 pi. Okay, so let's break it down. Let's go back to pi. Okay, so if I want half of pi, if I want to know what's this location in radians, okay, oh, I don't want to do that. If I want this location in radians, can't I take pi and cut it in half? Because that's how we get 90, right? It's literally half of pi. You can see if this is pi, it's half of it. So this location is pi over 2. Pi over 2. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the same exact game that we just played with degrees. I have 1 pi over 2. This is 2 pi over 2, which we know reduces, right? And then this location would be 3 pi over 2. And then add another pi over 2 to this quadrantal, and that is 4 pi over 2, right? But these reduce. Isn't that 2 pi? Isn't 2 pi over 2 just 1 pi? Okay, so those are the quadrantals. All right, let's keep moving. Next, I'm going to go ahead and I am going to do the 45-degree angles. So if this is half of pi, okay, I want to cut that in half. Okay, so I cut that in half, and this gives us pi over 4. And if you're like, Schulberg, how did that happen? So pi over 2, right, cut in half, multiplied by a half, this gives us pi over 4. Okay, so that's how I get pi over 4 there. All right, so let's go ahead and let's play our counting game again. So I have 1 pi over 4. I add another pi over 4, that is 2 pi over 4, which reduces to pi over 2. Okay, so I'm not going to write that one. Okay, then another one, so 3 pi over 4. 4 pi over 4 gives us pi. I'll add another one, so I have 5 pi over 4. Add another one, I get 6 pi over 4, which is 3 pi over 2. Add another one, and I get 7 pi over 4. And lastly, 8 pi over 4 if I add another one. Okay, and that brings me back to 2 pi. So those are your pi fourth angles. Pi fourth angles, right? Also known as your 45-degree angles. Okay, next we're going to go ahead and do our 30-degree angles. So 30 degrees, well, that's 180 degrees, right, divided by 6. So that gives us pi over 6. Okay, so here's your other main angle. Okay, and we have one more. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and count. So 1 pi over 6. Okay, I'll add, and we get 2 pi over 6. Okay, I'll add another one, 3 pi over 6. Well, that reduces to pi over 2. Okay, I'll add again, I get 4 pi over 6. Add again, and I get 5 pi over 6. Okay, add another one, we get 6 pi over 6. Well, that's pi. Okay, add another one, and we get 7 pi over 6. Add another one, we get 8 pi over 6. One more gives us 9 pi over 6, which is 3 pi over 2. Okay, add another one, I have 10 pi over 6. And then another one gives us 11 pi over 6. So there is all of our angles. And I hope you're wondering, you're like, Schwarberg, what about the ones in green? Well, they're all over 6. Well, yes, but I hope some of you were also shouting at me too, like, hey, 2 pi over 6, that's the same thing as pi over 3. So that reduces, right? And we get our third and final kind of like major unit angle. That's pi over 3, okay? So all of these ones in green reduce. Okay, so instead of 4 pi over 6, that's 2 pi thirds. Okay, over here, instead of 8 pi over 6, that's 4 pi thirds. And instead of 10 pi over 6, that's 5 pi over thirds. Over 3 over thirds. Okay? All right. So there is your unit circle. That's the unit circle. Again, what's the radius? It's 1. All right, it's made up of quadrantals. Those are angles that end on the quadrants. We have 3 main angles. Those 3 main angles are the 35, 45, and 60 degree angles. And in radians, right, that's pi 6, pi fourths, and pi thirds. In the next video, we'll go ahead, we'll talk about kind of like patterns. I hope you kind of see a pattern here. Maybe pause it and look at the colors and see like what jumps out at you. There's definitely a pattern here. That will help you memorize this. Yes, you do have to memorize this, right? It will be helpful for the rest of this year and also going forward into calculus. Okay, until next time. Catch you later. Peace.